Hey there, Walt here from Walt in PA, and well, we're about to do another motovlog, and the topic of that motovlog is things that I wish I knew as a new rider. Now this is a battle-tested, tried and true topic that many motovloggers cover. However, I want to flip it on its head and come at it from a different approach. So let's do it.
At the start of this video, I said that I wanted to take the tried and true battle-tested topic of 5 things I wish I knew as a new rider and flip it on its head. And what I mean by that is I want to take this topic and approach it from a new rider's perspective. Usually, motovloggers will cover the things that they know now that they wish they would have known back when they started riding. And as a new rider, well, I have questions, and I'm really hoping that the comment section will generate some discussion and maybe even a couple of video responses to answer some of those burning questions that I have. 5 things I wish I knew as a new rider. Question number 1, wind. So I ride a 2018 Honda CB650F. It is a naked bike. There are no fairings, there's no windscreen, and I am completely open to the elements. The reason I chose this bike is because I love the styling of a naked bike. It has some of the appeal of a sport bike, but some of the comforts of a standard. It also doesn't have some of the weight of a big cruiser or the bulk of a big touring bike. So it seemed like a great option to get me into riding once again. I would have a nice, light, nimble bike that wasn't overpowered and could pretty much get me wherever I wanted to go without too much issue. But the one problem that I face on a regular basis is wind, and I'm really not quite sure how to approach this, whether it's just something that you get used to over time, or if there's some tips and tricks that could help me along the way. So a great example of the issue that I'm facing with wind is this road here. Now, this stretch of road isn't ideal because it's only 35 miles an hour, but there are parts of it that open wide, and you'll have fields on the left, fields on the right, and you're generally moving at 45, 50 at certain parts on this road. And on a naked bike, obviously I have no wind deflection. There's no fairings, there's no windscreen. There's nothing to buffer the wind from hitting me, and I'm okay with that. It's kind of the cross I need to bear being on a naked bike. It's just common. The issue that I face, however, is crosswind and turbulence. So when the road opens up and I've got fields on either side of me, I may have a cross breeze that hits me from one side and pushes me around on the road. And you also have to contend with oncoming traffic. So there are situations where a car may be coming at me, which doesn't create much turbulence. A little poof of wind almost goes unnoticeable. When something a little bigger goes by, like a pickup truck or a van, the turbulence is noticeable. And it can be downright bad when a tractor trailer, such as the one coming right at me, comes by. Here I can feel the wind push me back and forth, and if I have a crosswind in addition to that, it can make you a little uncomfortable. Things I wish I knew as a new rider. Item number 2, all the stuff. And by all the stuff, I mean all the stuff. I'm wearing full gear. I've got boots on, riding pants with knee and hip armor. I'm wearing a riding jacket that has shoulder, elbow, and back armor. I'm wearing gloves that have knuckle armor and palm protection. And I'm also wearing a full face helmet. And the question becomes, how do you deal with all of this stuff when the weather turns, well, warm? So right now it is beautiful. It is probably in the low 70s. The breeze coming through my jacket feels fantastic. And the weather is pretty much a non-issue. Now, I should probably preface this by saying that what you choose to do as a rider really has no bearing on me. I'm a big believer in personal freedoms, and if you're the type of guy that likes to ride no helmet, tank top, short shorts, and flip-flops, have at it. I'm not the type to criticize, and you do you. But on the flip side of that, I know that motorcycles are inherently dangerous, and I accept that risk fully. But because I have 3 young children and a wife at home, I've decided to try to minimize my risk by incorporating gear into my riding habits. So anytime I leave the house, no matter whether I'm going down the street or I'm going on a 50-mile trek around town, I always wear full gear. And ordinarily, it's not too big a deal. I've gotten used to the added bulk and weight, but the heat is something else entirely. When the weather gets up 90 plus and the sun's beating down on my black leather jacket, it can get, uncomfortable. So my question would be, do you have different gear for different riding situations, or do you have gear that adapts to the riding situation? 5 things I wish I knew as a new rider. Item number 3. Storage. Or luggage, however you want to phrase it. So, as I had mentioned, I ride a naked bike. It's a Honda CB650F. And it has no storage at all. In fact, I was quite surprised to find out that there's not even a small storage section underneath the seat for something as simple as my insurance card. I actually have to stick it in a pocket. Now, for short rides around town, this really isn't a big deal. You just kind of make it work. It's not a hassle to stick an insurance card in your pocket or find a place to stow away something small. But for instance, if you're going on a ride that's going to last, let's say, an hour or more, and you just want to have the simple pleasure of hopping off the bike and taking a sip of water, what do you do when you don't have storage on your bike? Now, the simple solution seems to be to just put storage on the bike, and that can be done in a couple of different ways. I could go out and I could get a tank bag. However, the tank on this bike is fairly big, and I don't know that I would want to deal with the added bulk of a bag stuck to the top of the tank. So really, while that is a good option for some, I don't think that it's a very good option for me. The other option would be to get a tail bag and put it on the passenger seat on the back, or the pillion, I believe it's called. And that would offer a small amount of storage for the little things that I'm looking to keep on the bike. Insurance card, a bottle of water, maybe a small toolkit, or if I'm going to the hardware store and I just need to pick up something small, it would be nice to be able to ride the bike to the hardware store, get what I need, and then head home without having to jump in the car and taking only the car just because I needed, a box of screws or something. An additional option would be saddlebags, but the concern there is that I'm concerned that the saddlebags would look funny. I don't see too many sport bikes, or naked bikes for that matter, with saddlebags on them. Now, there's a wide variety of universal fit options that would work for me on this bike. I'm concerned with not only fitment, I don't want these bags flopping around as I go through turns or come across gusty wind. There are also a couple of different options in terms of saddlebags specifically for this bike. They're meant to fit the Honda CB650, and they don't look bad. They are a little on the pricey side. They require mounting hardware and some other odds and ends that don't make it ideal, but by the same token, I think that the fit, finish, and look would in fact be ideal over a universal fit option. And last, there's the tried and true backpack. I could simply throw a backpack on before I leave the house, and that would be a great option if I wanted to stop somewhere and maybe stuff my jacket down inside, go for a small hike, that sort of thing. My only real concern there is that when the weather gets warm, and we circle back to that all the stuffs thing, when it gets warm, I wouldn't want it to impede airflow, because there is some venting on the back of my jacket for exhaust. And the concern there would be that the backpack would wind up trapping heat and effectively making me even hotter on a warm day. I'm also not entirely sure about having stuff on my back in the event of a crash. I guess it all depends on the stuff that you're carrying. A bottle of water, can't see that making a huge difference. But, we circle back to that box of screws from the hardware store. That's not something I'd want to be carrying on my back in the event that something really bad happened. So, as I said, this question is more for the sport bike and naked bike riders. But I would love your input on how you handle the lack of luggage on a bike like this. 5 things I wish as a new rider. Item number 4, mentorship. So, as a new motorcycle rider, I really don't have a lot of people in my circle that actively ride. I've got some people that ride occasionally. My father-in-law rides a Goldwing. He tends to work a lot, so he doesn't get out much on the bike. My brother again, same situation, works a lot, doesn't get out on his cruiser very much. And that leaves me sometimes wondering, who do you learn from? Because it's one thing to read books and to watch videos and to find a parking lot to practice in, but without active feedback, sometimes it can be difficult to understand what it is that you're doing right or what you're doing wrong. So my question here becomes, how do you handle mentorship? How do you find someone to give you that critical feedback to make sure that you stay safe? Obviously you want to stay within your limits, and an important part of that is knowing your limits and not pushing them. But that doesn't really give you a whole lot of feedback in terms of what exactly is going on that I'm not seeing or that I'm not recognizing, because I'm sure there are a number of things that I could be doing much better than I am. And I'm sure that as I ride, you probably see these things, but again, because I'm a new rider, I don't see them. So is this simply an experience thing where I'll have a magic moment at some point that clarifies all of this to me, or do you seek some sort of rider coach? Now, there's also the fantastic option of rider safety courses offered in your given state. Unfortunately, in Pennsylvania, classes have been canceled for the foreseeable future during the pandemic. So while that would normally be a great option, it's not such a great option right now. come on. It was kind of an thing to do. And that is a wonderful segue into my very last question, which is 5 things I wish I knew as a new rider. Item number 5. How do you deal with, well, stupidity? So, initially, this question was just going to be, how do you deal with people that don't give you the appropriate amount of space? So, when I'm out riding, again, I'm a new rider, so my comfort level is a little bit different than someone that has been riding for a long time. And I tend to be a little more sensitive to different things. And one of the things that I have a tendency to be sensitive about is the cars behind me giving me the appropriate amount of space. Now, this car here, whether you can see it or not, giving me plenty of space at the stop. Leading up to the stop, again, plenty of space, giving me a nice cushion. But prior to that, when I make the turn, or when I made the turn to get here, that whole ride through, I had someone riding quite a bit closer than I would have preferred. There are just things like that that kind of make me a little uncomfortable. So, in essence, the question becomes, how do you deal with other people on the road giving you the appropriate amount of space? It's one thing if traffic is in front of you. I can slow down and I can create a larger buffer. If I see something coming, I can adapt and I can do something about it. But when I have a car behind me, there isn't, well, at least in my mind, there's not a whole lot that I can do. Now, I could speed up, but that doesn't seem like a very good option. Speeding to get away from someone that's already riding up my rear tire doesn't seem like a very viable option. And slowing down seems like it would only make things worse. If I've got someone following too closely while I'm doing the speed limit, what is going to happen when I slow down and go under the speed limit? Or slow down, let's say 5 miles an hour to the speed limit, if I just happen to be feeling a little peppy and riding a bit faster than what's posted. So those are the 5 things I wish I knew as a new rider. So hopefully you'll be able to hit the comment section down below and give me your input. So that's going to conclude today's episode of the Walt NPA Motovlog. Thank you for watching the video. If you like this, please like and subscribe. Thumbs up are always greatly appreciated, as are comments. I love getting those. So, with that said, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time. Ride safe.